The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Well, go ahead, Reverend.
Lawrence, let me just say this, and let me be very candid about this. I think on 2 points. One, people are still marching. I'm still marching. A lot of us are still marching, and it's still dangerous. I've been stabbed in my lifetime leading a march. People are being pepper sprayed down at at Wall Street now, at Occupation Wall Street. So it is still some risk. To act like these people are un-American or mobs, and Herman Cain to call them un-American, call blacks brainwashed, question the president's birth certificate, and then you can't ask him about where he was in his college days on an issue he raised. Give me a break. I mean, he can say whatever he wants, but then if somebody just raises a question to him about the basis of him making those statements, then all of a sudden he runs and says, you're telling him how to be black? No, maybe we're asking for consistency here. If you thought it was all right to march, but you didn't march, then why is it wrong to march now? If you thought one way, then why you question not somebody's race, but question where a man was born when he's the president of the United States? So if Herman Cain wants to throw rocks, he should at least be open to someone asking him questions.
Think of Donald Trump's lead, and he's going to be one of your opponents, supposedly. What do you think of his lead? Do you think he's off base with asking the president to supply his birth certificate?
No, he's not off base, just like the people who have been challenging his place of birth for the last couple of years. It's just not an issue that I have studied enough to have a view one way or the other. I've been on the radio for 5 years full-time. That wasn't an issue, quite frankly, that I spent a lot of time studying. And I respect people who believe that he should prove his citizenship. He should prove that he was born in the United States of America. You know, and that's fine. If I were president and someone were challenging me on that, I'd produce my birth certificate. End of discussion, such that it doesn't remain a big distraction. But I have not. And I know that there some people have dug up some facts on this side, some people have dug up some facts on this side, but I quite frankly have not looked at all of the facts to be able to have an opinion of that.
But with looking at all the facts, you'd probably make a better decision if you were going to pursue that.
Exactly.
We were talking before we went on during the break that some of us have in our possession at home somewhere, I have one in the office here, an actual copy of one of these birth certificates as described here. It has a picture of Nazareth Hospital in Northeast Philly and Roosevelt Boulevard. It has the name of Dr. Aladdin, I believe we knew him, and it's got witnesses and my parents' names, all sort of old school, written out in handwriting with ink and everything on it. It looks like an old document, but if you, like the letters of transit in Casablanca. Now you have the new kind, which is this digital thing printed out. The president has produced this new kind. It's been fine for him.
Newfangled.
But it's not fine for the. There it is. That's what he has.
Right.
Well, he doesn't have the other kind apparently. So
the other day that there is such a thing. It exists. The original document of his birth is available in storage. They have it in storage. They say. Well, and if it exists, why not put it out? I'm just asking the obvious question: why not? Will there be any harm done by releasing the original document?
I would take the brave position of saying that if they can find it, they should put it out there, and then we can make even more fun of the birthers.
I'll take the brave position of saying, yeah, put it out there, and the birthers are still not going to believe it. They're going to say, well, that governor is part of the conspiracy, too, because he's a Democrat.
And why did it take so long?
This is not a Hollywood nugget, but it is so important I had to bring it to the table. Former United States Congressman from Hawaii, Neil Abercrombie, has been a friend of mine for decades. When I spent time with Neil during the Obama inauguration in Washington, D.C., Neil told me that he was going to run for governor of Hawaii. Neil also told me that when he was in college in Hawaii, he was a friend of Obama's dad. And he remembered Barack, he called him Barry, when he was a kid. He actually a very, very good friend of the president. Neil promised that when he became governor, he was going to cut through all the red tape and get Obama's birth certificate and once and for all end the stupid controversy. Yesterday, I talked to Neil. Hey, good morning, Valley, your Hollywood Insight. This next item, only because I have such close personal contact, I had to bring it to the report today. Former United States Congressman from Hawaii, Neil Abercrombie. We have been friends for decades. When I spent a lot of time with Neil during President Obama's inauguration in Washington, D.C., Neil told me that he was going to run for governor of Hawaii. And he told me the story he had told me many, many times before, that when he was in college in Hawaii, he was a good friend of Obama's dad. And he remembered Barack Obama as a little kid playing Little League, called him Barry. Neil promised me back during the inauguration when he became governor, he was going to cut through all the red tape, he was going to get Obama's birth certificate, and once and for all end the stupid controversy about Barack being born in the United States. Yesterday I talked to Neil, says that he has searched everywhere using his power as governor at Kapiolani Women's and Children's Hospital and Queens Medical Center, the two places where children were born back when Barack was born. There is no Barack Obama birth certificate.
Really?
He was shocked. I asked, "What does that mean?" He says it means it could be a big controversy when the re-election takes place.
Whoa!
I just thought you'd hear it here first.
Man.
This next item, no show business, but I have a personal interest, so I thought I'd share it with you. Former U.S. Congressman from Hawaii, Neil Abercrombie, has been a friend of mine for decades. In fact, when I first met Neil, he was driving a cab in Honolulu. Well, Neil and I spent a lot of time together in Washington, D.C. during Obama's inauguration. Neil told me then that he was going to run for governor of Hawaii. He had enough of being a U.S. congressman. He also told me that stories, and he told me many times that after Barack became famous, that when he was in college, going to the University of Hawaii, he was a friend of Barack Obama's dad, and he remembers Barack Obama as a little kid. He used to call him Barry. In fact, I did a TV interview with Abercrombie at C-SPAN the day after the inauguration, and we had to stop twice because he referred to the president as Barry, which after he did, he said, I can't do that. I got to call him the Mr. President. Well, Neil promised me that when he became governor, he was going to cut through all the red tape. He was going to get Obama's birth certificate once and for all and end the stupid controversy that he was not born in the United States. Yesterday, talking to Neil's office, Neil says that he searched everywhere using his power as governor at the Kapiolani Women's and Children's Hospital and Queens Hospital, the only places kids were born in Hawaii back when Barack was born. There is no Barack Obama birth certificate in Hawaii.
Really?
Absolutely no proof at all that he was born in Hawaii.
Wow.
Now, he went out, he loves Obama. I mean, he purposely did this to get rid of that question. Now, got some egg in the face. I mean, now he admits publicly that there is no birth certificate.
Honestly.
Well, and Mike, the addendum to that is there's this story of there was a birth announcement, but it's been explained his grandparents could have called the newspaper and said, hey, our grandchild was born, and he didn't have to be born in Hawaii for that. So it's raising the issue again.
Absolutely.
After it seemed to be put to bed.
And I asked him, I go, well, when do you remember Barack? When your first memory? And he goes, I remember him playing like in a T-ball league. And I go, like, well, how old? He goes, he was like 5 or 6, something like that. I go, what about before that? He goes, I don't really remember him much before that, which I thought was very odd.
Really?
Anyway.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
According to our federal law, and I don't know if it's constitutional law, but I assume it would be, why is he allowed to be the president of the United States then if he can't prove he's a U.S. citizen?
Well, that's
born here.
The big question.
I don't know. That's weird.
And now Abercrombie is the first to say that although he is Abercrombie is a Obama lover,
right?
That he's concerned that this is really going to be an issue during the re-election.
So it has taken off as a big story again, huh?
Yes.
Well, and what's interesting about it is this guy attacked people who questioned that he was born in Hawaii just a few weeks ago.
Neil did.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, Neil and I are buddies, and during this whole inauguration, when I was in Washington for those 10 days, spent a lot of time with Neil, and anytime anybody come up and bring this up, you're right, Neil was almost militant about it. I remember him as a kid. He was from Hawaii, born and raised in Hawaii. So, needless to say, I think he was probably shocked more than anybody with the whole thing.
I mean, don't you have to produce papers that say, in fact, you were born in the United States?
So, wouldn't you?
You'd have to.
Well, there's been a certificate of live birth, but that's being questioned too because you don't have it. It's not the official birth certificate.
There has to be one at the hospital signed by the doctor verifying birth and a birth, but there isn't that.
Weird.
It's like baptism papers. It's not worth the paper it's written on, really.
Well, Mike, how hard would it be to go back and find out what doctors were on then?
Well, apparently he can't find any of that.
I listened to the KQRS morning show, and I listened to you and those hosts, and you shared a controversy, or this controversy rather, in a conversation that you had with the governor. Is that an accurate statement?
No, it isn't. If you listen to it, I just listened to it again. I said I talked to Neil's office. I didn't say that I talked to Neil. Yesterday I talked to Neil. Said that he searched everywhere. Yesterday I talked to Neil. Said that he searched everywhere. Yesterday I talked to Neil. Said that he searched everywhere.
President Obama's birth certificate has been welcomed with applause and skepticism. But one Grand Junction man says he knows the document was altered.
There is no doubt that it has been edited and quite significantly.
James Colby says he's never had a reason to doubt our president's birthplace. He's politically independent, yet Colby says he can't ignore the obvious. He's been working with graphics for years, and after downloading the file straight off the White House's website, he started noticing the apparent flaws in a computer program called Adobe Illustrator.
Legitimate digitized scanned documents will always have this faded appearance, so it's not a single document, it's actually a composite of layers. You can see the layers flash yourself just by rapidly zooming in and out in your web browser.
Colby says scanned images should have one digitized layer, but he says President Obama's birth certificate has almost 50.
The white background behind these letters, which is also superimposed, actually covers up a little bit of the D. Even his name has been edited, all except for the R in Barack.
But why would the White House release something so obvious?
The question is why? Why is it so obvious? Maybe the original certificate was damaged, maybe it was faded, maybe someone was just trying to clean it up. You would think if that was the case, they would supply the original certificate just so there would be no suspicions.
Colby says as strange as the edits are, they don't prove a thing. But he thinks they do point in one direction.
It's definitely been edited in its entirety, so the indication would point to the probability of it being fake, but no one can really make that claim.
Colby isn't alone in believing the birth certificate has been altered. Conservative groups from across the country are coming out saying the same exact thing. Reporting live, Don Coleman, KJCT News 8.
As Jerome Corsi said, my name is Mara Zabest. I am a teacher of Adobe programs and Microsoft programs for government employees as well as many Fortune 500 companies. I also co-author and I'm a technical editor for over 100 books. A dozen of those are for Adobe programs. I came to look at this birth certificate on the day that it was released from a friend of mine. I have many friends who rely on me for my expertise. I can't tell you how many times people call me up and they, in this case too, they just said, if anybody can tell if it's real or fake, I know it'd be you. You'd have to look at it and tell me what you see. I went to the White House website. I downloaded the file. I opened it up in Illustrator, and the reason I opened up in Illustrator is because I know that if it's a PDF, it's going to, Illustrator's still going to retain a lot of the information. And so I opened it up in Illustrator to see what I could find. Within seconds, this is not only a fake document, it is an obvious fake document. It was just unbelievable. I was just in shock that what I was looking at. This document is just impossible that it could be authentic. And I can show you why.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.